Diary of a Mid-30s Girlie.
Starts right now.
Bonjour, bitches. Okay, I'm gonna get that out. Let me start over. Welcome back to Diary of a Mid-30s Girlie, the podcast for the last bitch in her friend group to get her shit together. I am your host, Danielle, and today I have an episode planned that I'm quite excited about because we are talking about a fear that often surrounds putting your creative work out into the world, creative ownership, and why it doesn't matter if someone steals your work, heavy on the air quotes, for real, and what does matter. Let's get into it. Story time to start. The other morning, I was scrolling YouTube. I had just woken up and I was looking for, like I always do, the video that I was gonna play as I was like doing my typical morning things, you know? And this thumbnail caught my eye because it was the face of a creator whose videos I frequently watch. And actually her videos do tend to be very like chill, very like listenable. So I was like, bang, perfect. Then the title catches my eye. And in it are the words, time flex tear technique. Now, most of you, I imagine, are gonna know what that's a reference to. For the uninitiated, time flex tear technique is a term that I coined to represent my little personal twist on that productivity technique known as time blocking, right? I'm not gonna get into it here because I have a whole video about that, but basically, instead of like color coding for areas of life, I color code for like how flexible things are. For example, bright red means like be here at this time or else, basically. Whereas if something's like on the lighter yellow, like less flashy side, then it's like drag it to tomorrow, drag it to next week, drag it off the face of the earth. Like it really doesn't matter, you know? Anyway, sorry, I digress. Point is, I read this in the title and I immediately am like, oh, you know, because since I pulled that term out of my butt, like I know for a fact that like this video is at least going to be loosely inspired by that video that I'm talking about. So I click it fast as fuck, obviously. Basically, I need to know, like, does Miss Ma'am give me the credit I feel I am due in this situation? And I hate to disappoint you, but she does. This video would have been so juicy. Like, if she'd gotten on there and been like, I invented this thing called the time flex tear technique, I'd be like, okay. But no, she didn't. In fact, I would say she gave me credit in just about every way that a reasonable person could. Like, she literally mentions me by name. She flashes a photo of my original thumbnail up on screen, and she links my video down in the description. Like she cited her sources, okay? So I see this, and I'm like, like nervous system calms down. Like no one's trying to like take credit for my shit or whatever. And that's when I can like appreciate it for what it is, right? Like I've been watching her videos and now I'm having this moment of like, she knows who I am and she like is validating my concept when I see her as like the product, you know? So that's cool. So I get in her comments, I'm like, oh my God, hi. I see some people in her comment section have seen my stuff too. So I'm like, oh my God, hi. Cause like I literally recognize their avatars. Like, you know how much time I spend in my comment section. So anyway, I close the app. I think I'm gonna move on with my day. I don't. And it was just bizarre because nothing wrong had been done to me. I'd appreciated what was going on. And yet I felt this like, that like I couldn't quite place or like rationalize or whatever, like just kind of settle over me. And it wasn't until probably later that day when I was alone and like had time to kind of like process, did I realize like what was going on. And that's when I realized I was experiencing this cocktail of a low concentration cocktail, mind you, but a cocktail of jealousy, of like low-key grief, and anger, not at her, but at myself. Now, before I go any further, I know I used some like punchy title for this episode because like that's the nature of YouTube or whatever. This is not tea, there is no drama here, but I also feel like it's super important to just like be real about like how this feels. This is a low vibe mindset and I don't want to ever live here, but like I'm human, you know? I found myself in this like weird feeling of scarcity. I didn't ride the wave the way that I should have. I've thought about this for days now, and even still, I can't quite put it into words or understand exactly why I went down just like this, but for some reason, like seeing that got me thinking about all the ways that I have fallen short when it comes to content creation. Number one, she's a much bigger creator than I am. And it's not the number itself that makes me feel away. It's the fact that I know that she deserves what she has. Like I've said in the past, like my fear of not being good enough for so long, my fear of being seen for so long would make me take so long putting together a video. Like literally I'd film it and it would take me like a month to put it together because I thought that if I could edit it and make it perfect, then it would be beyond reproach and like no one could ever criticize me for anything. And obviously that hasn't worked out for me. Whereas I look at someone like her who just like, nope, I'm putting out a video every like 3 to 4 days and she just fucking does it. Like, I don't know. And again, I know she didn't create this video to like make me like compare myself to her, but yeah. And I guess on some level, I feared that because I hadn't built what she had built, she would be the one to benefit off this idea that I felt, right or not, was like mine. I mean, first of all, she got a sponsorship for that video, which like amazing, you know, and how she runs her business, not my business. But it just made me have this feeling of like, damn, like if I had done what I know deep down I should have done after that video popped off, like maybe I'd be making videos that have sponsors now, you know? Like it makes me think of someone like Tiago Forte, right? I'm not like saying that I am like Tiago Forte, but when I think about him and what I know of him and his career and his trajectory and all that, like he's a dude in the productivity space. And that's because he came up with this concept of like the second brain. So a concept that helps people be productive, but it's not like he invented Notion software, right? And so that's kind of how I feel about the whole time flex tier technique thing. Like I didn't build Google Calendar. I just created this very specific way of using it that is unusual to the way that most people do. But like he's been able to write books and like I think he probably does speaking engagements and you know, he just has this whole career built around this system, and it just made me feel like, damn, like, I'm really disappointed in the way that I handled that. It's not like I don't like my current job as a receptionist. I mean, I've talked about like I like it. I think it fits with my personality and all, but it's not endgame. I have never felt so much like purpose in my life than the way that I feel about some like, you guys like leave these comments for me that literally make me so happy. I like screenshot them. I'll like send them to my friends. I read them to my husband. God, can I even say this? I feel like I'm making a difference in some of your lives, you know? And I've just never really felt like that before. Anyway, we're getting off topic. I'm sorry. As an aspiring YouTuber, I've obviously watched a lot of content that's about like, oh, my butt's getting sore. I've watched a lot of content that's like about, YouTube growth. And something that I've heard many times is that YouTube growth is like a hockey stick, right? It's like slow and slong. It's slow and long. And then all of a sudden, bang, like one video hits and that's all it takes for you to have like a huge spike or whatever, like a hockey stick, like a rocket ship. The Google Calendar video, once it hit, that was my rocket ship moment. Instead of having the balls to be like, this is it, and grabbing on, I became so fearful of messing up this opportunity that the opportunity and the goodwill of the YouTube algorithm ultimately passed me on by. I'm trying to ride the wave now, but I don't know, man. Honestly, this didn't exactly go down the path that I wanted to go. I wanted to end this little portion of the episode with like, just because you didn't capitalize on something then doesn't mean you can't capitalize on that now. I don't know how I was gonna like, what bridge I was gonna build to get to that point, but let's move on. Now, this chapter of the episode might be a little bit like woo for some of you. I'm a little woo myself, but I don't always resonate with people that are like too woo, if that makes any sense. However, there is this idea that I believe, and I've believed it for a long time, that ideas float around in the ether and they come to you because they want you to bring them to life. But if you don't, like if you're not willing to go into labor, they have no choice if they want to exist to find another mother. That was a weird analogy, I'm sorry. And I didn't come up with this idea. I think the first time I ever heard it was with Elizabeth Gilbert. I think she brings it up in like that TED Talk, but I know it's also the subject of her book, Big Magic. And then, you know, Rick Rubin, who I just adore, has talked about this in his book, which I literally love so much. I have a physical copy that I got for Christmas, and I bought the audiobook on my own because ADHD, like, I just never know what mood I'm gonna be in. And I love that book so much. Oh, and then even before that, I had seen that, you remember that Everything is a Remix video that was real big a few years ago? And how he talks about, I don't remember the exact name, but I want to say it's like multiple discovery. It's when like the printing press, for example, was apparently invented by two different people on the same day, but we only celebrate like the one person because, I don't know, maybe they like got a patent first. I don't remember. Some story like that, right? But like, this is a thing. It is so a thing. And I'd be willing to bet that you have experienced this at some point in your life. I started experiencing this, I swear, when I was young. As a kid growing up in the 90s, I was very surprised to see an infomercial one day that was basically about how you can turn your lights on and off with a little clap of the fingers, right? Clap of the hands. Imagine my surprise, because I could have sworn that I invented this in my head like a few weeks prior. I'm like 7 years old, too lazy to get up out of my bed, and I was like, God, if only I could, right? And I swear I have had a lot of instances like that ever since. I actually want to talk about one in specific that just haunts me. I'm kind of afraid to because it's about Taylor Swift, but honestly, I'm in my era, so like, I'm just gonna tell you. One of my favorite songs that Mother has ever put out of the hundreds is August. August is just, right? For the non-Swifties, it's basically a song about a teen girl like losing her virginity, and it's all very like, it's not sad, but it's like wistful, I guess you would say. I'm obsessed with it. The first time I heard it though, I was like, because in 2017, 3 years prior, I had written a song called Dark Haired Devils. If it had just been the concept, like that would have been one thing. But like the lyrical similarities were kind of crazy. Like the first line of August, her line is like salt air, you know. The first line in mine, salty ocean air. Then she talks about his door. I talk about it coming through her window. That one's not as whatever. Her line, I can see us twisted in bed sheets. Mine, you and I were kissing under twisted teenage sheets. My line, you asked me, did I want to try? Her line, whispers of Are You Sure? Way more poetic, by the way. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, obviously she killed it with this song. And all in all, just like a very atmospheric vibe. Again, I am not trying to discredit Mother in any way. I'm just saying that I think she believes in this to an extent herself. Like, she has very openly talked about the way that like she doesn't know where her like ideas will come from, but she'll hear like a whisper of a melody in her head, and then she'll immediately have to record it in her phone or like go to a piano and start playing with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And obviously she's an expert in her craft, and she's also very disciplined and will like actually finish the songs that she starts, unlike me when I was going through my wannabe pop star era. We don't talk about that, but you get what I'm saying? Like, obviously she did the idea justice in a way that I never could, but yeah, I believe that. And I'm not the only one. There's a famous anecdote. Some producer was talking to Michael Jackson, and he was like basically asking him to like take something down a notch or something like that. And Michael Jackson is like, no, because if I don't do it right now, like God will give this idea to Prince, you know? And in some part of my heart, I believe that the idea like wanted to exist and wanted to be out in the world. And it was like, fine, bitch, like you don't want to put me out. You're going to regret this because I'm going to Mother Taylor. So all this to say that as proud as I am of inventing the time flex tear technique, I also believe that if I hadn't put out that video, like someone else would have eventually come up with the concept, and maybe the video they put out wouldn't have been exactly like mine, but it just makes me believe like these ideas that they want to exist, they have a mind of their own, and they're going to make it happen one way or the other. And that is why I have changed my entire creative philosophy of late. Play the game now or lose automatically. It took me a really long time to get to this place, but I think I'm finally getting there where I'm like, you have to act now, Danielle. If you have an idea for a YouTube video, you need to film it now. If you have songs that you want to release, I do. You need to put them out now. Even that video that did really well on my channel, the Google Calendar video, it was so funny because I remember feeling like there were a lot of changes I could have made to it. But at that point, I had a moment of clarity during that time of like, whatever, Danielle, just put it out. I mean, it probably was helped by the fact that I had 100 subscribers at the time, so I didn't think anyone was gonna see it, so I didn't really care. But it's just hilarious to me the way that decision has redirected my entire like YouTube trajectory. I can tell from my YouTube like analytics that like the YouTube algorithm has clearly placed me in the like productivity niche, which is like hilarious to me because like I am a mess. I am probably the last person that should be a productivity YouTuber, and yet somehow it makes sense. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down that tangent. But yeah, you need to act now, and you need to not worry about not being the crafts person that you wish you were with regard to this work. I cannot tell you how many times holding on to an idea because I didn't feel like I'm good enough to bring it to fruition, but I don't want to give up the idea, has bitten me in the ass. I know I talked about like the song that I never released. I felt it had the potential to be amazing, but I didn't have like the resources or access to a producer that I thought would like be able to make it what I felt it should be. And so I just held on to it. I just sat on it, never put it out there. I regret that to this day. Point is, I should have embraced the lo-fi-ness of it all. And in fact, doing that with this podcast, like using a little like green screen kind of as my background, there was a time where like I would have never done that. I wanted to have a podcast before, but I felt like it didn't have like the polish and stuff that like a podcast should have. So now here I am, me with my $30 microphone, filming on my phone, a like selfie, like Alex Earl selfie light, lighting the way, using a green screen basically as a background, and using these AirPods like literally for the aesthetic. These do not help me hear myself. I can't hear shit. But like I'm trying to create that like podcast vibe. But you know what? For some reason, this has all come together in a very lo-fi way that I actually like really fuck with. And I love it. And I'm proud of it. And I love doing these podcasts. And as far as I can tell, you guys love them too. And like that's what matters, you know? And I wish I'd had that same attitude about my music. And to be honest, I'm in this very like creative generative space. I'm kind of thinking about putting music out there. I have a song on Spotify right now. Should I link it in the description? Part of me wants to, and part of me is like, no, it should never see the light of day. Can I just say something? Maybe I will. You know what? I'll link it. I was very proud of it at the time that I made it. It sounds like, listening back to it now, it sounds very 2016. Anyway, the other thing I was gonna say is that even if you have to embrace the lo-fi-ness of your creations by necessity, there might come a time when like you can always reissue. I mean, for God's sakes, I know I won't shut up about Taylor Swift in this episode, but like the Taylor's version projects, like hello, like we just live in a different time than artists before us. Like we can like put stuff out there and be like, you know what? Like creations are no longer set in stone. They're like these living, breathing things that we can like change at will if we want to. I don't know. Just do it. Take my advice. You cannot plan and plot and strategize your way into excellence. I mean, some people can, but honestly, if you're watching this video and you're anything like me, we do not need more like planning and plotting. We need to just execute. I have said this before. I am learning to like live from instinct, trust that I'm gonna figure it out along the way, trust that like I know what I need to do and it'll be fine. Things will work out, but you have to play the game. You can't care so much about winning the game, but know that you never have the chance to win if you don't play. As you know, I respond to every single comment. So if you have anything that you need, anything you wanna ask me, anything you wanna tell me, I will see you in the comment section. I love you and I will see you soon.